A Navy SEAL captain walked into a military hospital thinking he owned the place. He saw a quiet nurse in simple scrubs. He asked about rank as a joke. What happened next left him on his knees. In the sterile halls of Naval Medical Center San Diego, respect is earned, not given. Here, ego means nothing. Skill means everything. But one man forgot that. Captain Marcus Stone, Navy SEAL, decorated warrior, thought he knew power. He thought he understood command. Until he met someone who wore no uniform, someone who carried no weapon, someone whose rank made generals salute. He made a terrible mistake. He assumed silence meant weakness. Before we start, I would love to know where you are joining from. Let me know in the comments. I hope you love this story. The captain who thought he knew everything, Captain Marcus Stone, had walked into rooms where presidents stood. He had commanded operations in 12 countries. At 42 years old, he was everything the Navy wanted in a SEAL officer. 6'3", 220 pounds of muscle. A face carved from years of salt water and sand. 3 bronze stars, 2 purple hearts, a silver star for valor. His uniform was perfect. Every ribbon placed with precision. His trident pin gleamed gold on his chest. His boots reflected the fluorescent lights of the hospital corridor. When he walked, junior officers stepped aside. When he spoke, rooms went quiet. Today was supposed to be routine, a mandatory post-deployment medical screening. Standard procedure after 6 months in the Middle East. His team had executed 17 missions, 0 casualties. Perfect record. Marcus hated hospitals, the smell of disinfectant, the weak fluorescent lighting, the soft voices. It was a world away from the desert. A world away from the adrenaline of night raids and door kicks. This was a place for the injured, the broken, not for warriors like him. He checked his watch. The appointment was at 0900 hours. It was now 08:55. He was early, as always. 5 minutes early is on time. On time is late. That was the SEAL way. The waiting area was empty except for one person. A nurse sat behind the intake desk. The nurse wore simple navy blue scrubs. No rank insignia, no name tape visible from this distance. Just plain medical scrubs and a stethoscope draped around the neck. The nurse was focused on paperwork, reading glasses perched on the nose, gray hair pulled back in a simple style. The nurse looked to be in the late 50s, maybe early 60s, small build, unremarkable. The kind of person Marcus would never notice in any other setting. Marcus approached the desk. His boots made sharp sounds on the polished floor. The nurse did not look up. Marcus cleared his throat. Still nothing. He stood there for a full 10 seconds. His jaw tightened. He was Captain Marcus Stone. People did not make him wait. Finally, he spoke. His voice had the edge of command, the tone that made recruits jump. "Excuse me, I have an appointment." The nurse looked up slowly, removed the reading glasses with deliberate care, placed them on the desk. The eyes that met Marcus were calm, steady, completely unimpressed. "Name?" The voice was quiet, professional, but there was something underneath it, something Marcus could not quite identify. "Captain Marcus Stone, 0900 hours." The nurse picked up a clipboard, scanned the list without hurry, found the name, made a small check mark. "Take a seat, Captain. The doctor will be with you shortly." That was it. No sir. No thank you for your service. No recognition of the ribbons on his chest or the trident that marked him as one of the most elite warriors in the world. Marcus felt a flash of irritation. He was not used to being dismissed, especially not by medical staff who usually treated SEAL officers like celebrities. He did not sit. He stood at the desk. He looked down at the nurse. He decided to establish the hierarchy, to remind this person exactly who was in charge. "You know," Marcus said, his voice taking on a casual, almost mocking tone, "in the military, we have a chain of command, a structure. Everyone has a rank. Everyone knows their place." The nurse looked up again, those calm eyes fixed on him. There was no anger, no fear, just patient attention. Marcus continued. He was warming to his theme now, enjoying the lecture. "I am a captain, 06. I command a SEAL team. When I give an order, men follow it. When I walk into a room, people stand. That is how it works." He leaned forward slightly. His voice dropped to what he thought was a friendly, condescending tone. "So let me ask you a question. Just curious. What is your rank? Are you even in the service? Or are you just a civilian contractor? It was meant to be dismissive, a way to put this person in their place, to remind them that Marcus Stone was important and they were not. The nurse set down the clipboard, folded hands on the desk. The movement was slow, deliberate. When the nurse spoke, the voice was still quiet, still professional, but there was steel underneath it now. My rank? Yes, Marcus said. He was smiling now, a tight, superior smile. Your rank, if you have one. The nurse stood up. The movement was fluid, controlled, the kind of movement that came from years of discipline, from decades of training. The nurse was shorter than Marcus by nearly a foot, older by at least 15 years. But something in the way the nurse stood made Marcus take an involuntary half-step back. My rank, the nurse said, each word measured and precise, is Rear Admiral, lower half. The words hung in the air like a grenade. Marcus felt the blood drain from his face. His smile froze, his breath caught in his throat. Rear Admiral, lower half. That was 07. 1 star. That was a flag officer. That was someone who commanded fleets, someone who sat in the Pentagon, someone who was 4 ranks above him. His eyes dropped to the nurse's scrubs, to the chest where rank insignia should be. There was nothing, just plain blue fabric, but now he saw other things. The watch on the wrist was not a cheap timepiece. It was a Rolex Submariner issued to senior naval officers. The pen clipped to the pocket was a Mont Blanc engraved. The bearing, the posture, the absolute confidence. Marcus had spent 20 years in the Navy. He knew how to read people. He knew the subtle signs of rank and authority, and he had missed all of them. He had been so focused on the lack of a uniform that he had ignored everything else. Sir, Marcus heard himself say. His voice cracked slightly. I apologize. I did not realize. Of course you did not. The Admiral's voice was still quiet. You saw scrubs, you saw gray hair, you saw someone doing paperwork at a desk. You made an assumption. Marcus felt his face burning. 20 years of discipline, 20 years of respect for the chain of command. And he had just mocked a flag officer. He had just lectured someone who could end his career with a single phone call. His training took over. His body moved before his mind caught up. He dropped to one knee, not both knees. That would be too much. But one knee, his right fist pressed to the floor, his head bowed. It was the old gesture, the one from medieval times, a knight before royalty. Sir, I humbly apologize. I spoke out of turn. I showed disrespect. There is no excuse. The room was silent. Marcus could hear his own heartbeat pounding in his ears. He could hear the soft hum of the air conditioning. He could hear the distant beep of medical equipment from down the hall. The Admiral did not speak for a long moment. When the words came, they were measured. Stand up, Captain. Marcus stood. He kept his eyes forward. His face was rigid with shame and discipline. The Admiral walked around the desk, moved to stand directly in front of Marcus. Up close, Marcus could see the lines on the face, the silver in the hair, but he could also see something else. The eyes were not the eyes of someone who sat behind desks. They were the eyes of someone who had seen things, done things. Let me tell you something, Captain Stone, the Admiral said. I have been in the Navy for 38 years. I started as a hospital corpsman. I served with Marines in the First Gulf War. I was in Fallujah in 2004. I was in Afghanistan in 2011. I have held the hands of dying boys. I have performed surgery in tents while mortars fell around us. I have commanded hospital ships and medical battalions. The Admiral paused, let the words sink in. I earned my commission through the ranks. I went to medical school while serving. I became a surgeon. I became a leader. I made flag rank not because I was given it, but because I earned it in blood and sand and the screams of wounded warriors. Marcus felt smaller with every word. He wanted to disappear. He wanted the floor to open up and swallow him whole. I do not wear my rank on my chest when I work in this hospital, Captain, because rank means nothing in an operating room. When a 19-year-old Marine is bleeding out on my table, he does not care if I am an admiral or a private. He cares if I can save his life. The Admiral stepped closer. The voice dropped even lower. You walked in here with your ribbons and your trident and your pride. You thought you knew what strength looked like. You thought power was loud, was visible, was decorated. The Admiral reached up, tapped Marcus once on the chest, right over his heart. Real power, Captain, is the surgeon who works 20-hour shifts to save lives. Real strength is the nurse who holds a dying soldier's hand so he does not die alone. Real courage is coming to work every day knowing you will face death and loss and grief, and doing it anyway, without glory, without recognition, without a single ribbon to show for it. Marcus could not speak. His throat was tight. His eyes burned. "So let me answer your question," the Admiral said. "Yes, I have a rank. Yes, I am in the service. And yes, Captain Stone, I outrank you by so much that you would need a ladder to look me in the eye on an organizational chart." The Admiral stepped back. The voice returned to its professional, neutral tone. "Now, your appointment is in 2 minutes. Exam room 3, down the hall, second door on your left. I suggest you sit down and think about what just happened, because right now you are about to have a very thorough physical examination, and I am the one who will be conducting it." Marcus felt his stomach drop. Of course, the Admiral was not just a nurse. The Admiral was a doctor, a surgeon. And Marcus had just insulted his commanding officer, who was about to have him in a hospital gown. "Yes, sir," Marcus managed to say. His voice was barely above a whisper. "Dismissed." Marcus turned. He walked to the waiting area. His legs felt like rubber. He sank into a plastic chair. He put his head in his hands. What had he done? How had he been so stupid, so arrogant? He had spent his entire career respecting the chain of command, following orders, honoring those above him, and in one moment of casual cruelty, he had thrown it all away. He had revealed himself to be exactly what he hated, someone who judged by appearances, someone who assumed, someone who thought a uniform made the man. He looked up. Through the glass partition, he could see the Admiral, back at the desk, back to the paperwork, reading glasses on, calm, professional, as if nothing had happened. But something had happened. Marcus Stone had been broken, not with violence, not with threats, but with simple truth, and he deserved every word of it. The exam room, 5 minutes later, Marcus sat on the examination table. The paper crinkled beneath him. He wore a thin hospital gown that tied in the back. His uniform was folded neatly on a chair. His ribbons and his trident were no longer visible. He was just a man in a gown. Vulnerable. Exposed. There was a knock on the door, soft but firm. "Come in," Marcus said. The Admiral entered, now wearing a white medical coat over the scrubs, a stethoscope around the neck, a tablet computer in hand. The reading glasses were gone. The face was professional, neutral. "Captain Stone," the Admiral said. No warmth, no coldness, just professional courtesy. "I am Admiral James Whitmore. I will be conducting your post-deployment medical evaluation." James Whitmore. The name hit Marcus like a slap. He knew that name. Every SEAL knew that name. Admiral Whitmore was a legend, a Navy Cross recipient, the only medical officer in modern history to receive the award. He had saved an entire platoon of Marines under direct fire in Fallujah. He had performed field surgery while the building was being shelled, and Marcus had just asked him what his rank was. As a joke, Marcus wanted to die. "Yes, sir," Marcus said. He kept his eyes forward. Admiral Whitmore set the tablet on the counter, pulled on latex gloves with practiced efficiency, began the examination, blood pressure, temperature, heart rate, lungs, reflexes, everything was done in silence. Professional, thorough. Marcus had been through hundreds of medical exams, but this one felt different. Every touch of the stethoscope felt like judgment. Every note on the tablet felt like a record of his shame. Finally, the Admiral stepped back, removed the gloves, made a final note on the tablet. "Physically, you are in excellent condition, Captain. No issues. You are cleared for active duty." "Thank you, sir." The Admiral set down the tablet, crossed arms, looked at Marcus directly. "Now, let us talk about what happened out there." Marcus blinked. "Out there, sir? In the waiting area. Do you understand what you did wrong?" Marcus swallowed. "Yes, sir. I disrespected a superior officer. I made assumptions based on appearance. I failed to show proper military courtesy." "That is correct," the Admiral said. "But do you understand why you did it?" Marcus hesitated. "Sir? You have been a SEAL for 15 years, Captain Stone. You have commanded men in combat. You have made life and death decisions. You are decorated. You are respected. You are, by all measures, a successful officer." The Admiral paused. "But somewhere along the way, you started to believe your own legend. You started to think that the ribbons made you special, that the trident made you superior. You forgot the first rule of leadership." "What is that, sir?" Marcus asked quietly. "That rank is a responsibility, not a privilege. That command is about service, not power. That the moment you start looking down on others, you have already failed as a leader." Marcus felt the words cut deep, because they were true. He had been looking down on people. Not just the Admiral, but the junior enlisted, the support staff, the people he passed in the hallways who did not wear combat decorations. "I have seen hundreds of men like you, Captain," the Admiral continued. "Good men, brave men, men who have done incredible things, but they all make the same mistake. They think strength is about domination, about being the hardest, the toughest, the most decorated." The Admiral walked to the window, looked out at the hospital grounds. Real strength is different. Real strength is the 19-year-old corpsman who runs into gunfire to drag a wounded Marine to safety. Real strength is the nurse who works a double shift because the hospital is understaffed and patients need care. Real strength is the janitor who mops the floors at 3 in the morning so that surgeries can happen in sterile environments. The Admiral turned back to Marcus. "Those people will never get a Bronze Star. They will never get a Silver Star. They will never be featured in magazines or invited to give speeches, but they are the backbone of this military. They are the reason men like you can do your job, and you just dismissed one of them as beneath you." Marcus felt tears prick his eyes. He blinked them back. Seals do not cry, but he was dangerously close. "I was wrong, sir," Marcus said. His voice was rough. "I was completely wrong, and I am ashamed." "Good," the Admiral said. The voice was not cruel. It was simply honest. "Shame is useful. Shame means you still have a conscience. The question is, what will you do with it?" "I do not know, sir." "Then let me tell you." The Admiral pulled up a stool, sat down, eye level with Marcus now. The gesture was deliberate. A flag officer making himself equal to a captain. A teacher with a student. "You are going to go back to your team. You are going to look at every person you command, every person who supports your mission, the cooks, the mechanics, the supply clerks, the admin staff, and you are going to see them, really see them, not as your subordinates, but as human beings who make your success possible." Marcus nodded slowly. "And you are going to apologize," the Admiral continued. "Not to me. I do not need your apology. I am fine. But you are going to find every person you have dismissed or looked down on or ignored, and you are going to make it right." "Yes, sir," Marcus said. "I will." "I believe you will," the Admiral said, "because despite your arrogance today, I have read your file. I know your record. You are a good officer. You have led men well. You have saved lives. You have the potential to be truly great, but you will never get there if you think greatness is about you." The Admiral stood up, extended a hand. Marcus took it. The grip was firm, strong. The hand of someone who had held scalpels and weapons, who had saved lives and taken them when necessary. "You are dismissed, Captain Stone," the Admiral said. "Get dressed, return to your unit, and remember this day. Remember that the most important people in your life are often the ones you do not see, until you need them." Marcus stood, saluted. The Admiral returned it crisply. As Marcus reached for the door, the Admiral spoke one more time. "Captain," Marcus turned, "for what it is worth," the Admiral said. "You have a good heart. I can see it. You just forgot where you came from. Go back to that place, the place where you were young and uncertain and learning, the place where you respected everyone because you did not know enough to be arrogant. Go back there and lead from that place." "I will, sir," Marcus said. "Thank you, sir." He walked out of the exam room. He walked down the hallway. He walked past the intake desk where the Admiral was already back at work. Paperwork, reading glasses, simple scrubs. Marcus stopped, turned around, walked back to the desk. The Admiral looked up. "Sir," Marcus said quietly, "I just want to say thank you for the lesson and for your service. What you do here, it matters, more than I understood." The Admiral gave a small nod, the faintest hint of a smile. "Go on, Captain. Your team is waiting for you." Marcus walked out of the hospital. into the bright San Diego sunshine. He stood on the steps for a moment, breathing, thinking. He had walked in as Captain Marcus Stone, decorated SEAL, warrior, legend in his own mind. He walked out as just Marcus, a man who had a lot to learn, a man who had a lot to make right. And for the first time in a long time, he felt like he was on the right path. The team meeting, Marcus drove back to the Naval Special Warfare Command headquarters at Coronado. The drive was short, but felt like hours. His mind was racing, replaying the conversation, hearing the Admiral's words over and over. The moment you start looking down on others, you have already failed as a leader. He pulled into the parking lot. His spot was marked with his name and rank. Captain Marcus Stone. It felt hollow now, just a title, just a word. He walked into the compound. The guard at the gate saluted sharply. Marcus returned it. But instead of just walking past like he usually did, he stopped. "Good afternoon," Marcus said. He looked at the name tape. "Petty Officer Rodriguez." The guard looked surprised. Officers usually did not stop, did not talk, just saluted and moved on. "Good afternoon, sir," Rodriguez said. "How long have you been stationed here, Rodriguez?" Marcus asked. 2 years, sir." "Family?" "Yes, sir. Wife and a baby girl, 3 months old." Marcus felt a pang. He had walked past this gate hundreds of times. He had never asked, had never cared. "Congratulations," Marcus said. "That is good. Family is important." Rodriguez looked confused but pleased. "Thank you, sir." Marcus walked on. Into the main building, down the hallway to the SEAL team spaces. His team was in the briefing room, debriefing from the last deployment, going over after action reports. He opened the door. 12 men looked up. His team, his warriors, men he had led through fire. "Attention," one of them called out. "As you were," Marcus said. He walked to the front of the room, set down his cover, looked at the faces. These men respected him. He knew that. They had followed him into places where most people would not go. They trusted him with their lives, but respect was not the same as connection. He realized now that he had kept them at a distance, had maintained the barrier between officer and enlisted, between leader and led. "Gentlemen," Marcus said, "before we continue with the debrief, I need to say something." They looked at him with curiosity. Marcus never did speeches. He was all business, all mission. "I had an experience today at the hospital," Marcus began. "I met someone who taught me something important, something I should have learned a long time ago." He paused, chose his words carefully. "I have been your commanding officer for 3 years. In that time, we have completed some of the most difficult missions in the history of this unit. We have succeeded because you are the best, the most skilled, the most dedicated." The men sat straighter, proud. "But I realize today that I have failed you," Marcus continued. "I have led you well in combat, but I have not led you well in peace. I have been so focused on the mission, on the success, on the glory, that I forgot the most important thing." He looked at each man individually. "You are not just warriors, you are human beings. You have families, you have fears, you have struggles, and I have never asked. I have never cared beyond whether you could do your job." The room was completely silent now. This was not the Captain Stone they knew. "I am going to do better," Marcus said, "starting today. I am going to know each of you, not just your call signs, not just your specialties, but you, the real you. Because a leader who does not know his men is not a leader. He is just a manager. And you deserve better than that." One of the younger SEALs, a petty officer second class named Jenkins, raised his hand tentatively. "Yes, Jenkins," Marcus said. "Sir, permission to speak freely?" "Granted." Jenkins stood. He was 24 years old, on his first team. He had been with them for 6 months. "Sir, I just want to say, we respect you. You have led us well. You have kept us alive. That is what matters." Marcus smiled sadly. "No, Jenkins, that is not all that matters. Keeping you alive in combat is my job. But caring about your life outside of combat, that is my responsibility, and I have failed at that. So I am asking for your help, all of you. Help me be better. Help me be the kind of leader you deserve." There was a long pause. Then, from the back of the room, the oldest member of the team spoke. "Master Chief Petty Officer Dawson, 22 years in the Navy, 15 as a SEAL. He had served under a dozen officers. He had seen everything. "Captain," Dawson said, his voice rough from years of salt water and wind, "that is the most honest thing I have ever heard an officer say." Marcus met his eyes. "Thank you, Master Chief." Dawson stood, walked to the front of the room, extended his hand. Marcus took it. "Sir," Dawson said quietly, "you just earned more respect from this team than any mission ever could." The other men nodded. One by one they stood. They did not salute, they simply acknowledged. A silent agreement, a new understanding. Marcus felt something break inside him. The wall he had built between himself and the people he led, it crumbled. And what replaced it was something better, something real. "All right," Marcus said, his voice thick. "Let us get back to work. We have a lot to do, and I have a lot to learn." The debrief continued, but it was different now. Marcus asked questions he never had before. He listened differently, he saw his men differently, and they saw him differently too. After the meeting, Marcus walked to his office. He sat at his desk, looked at the photos on the wall. Him shaking hands with generals, him receiving medals, him standing with his team in full gear. All the photos were about him, about his achievements, about his glory. He took them down, one by one. He put them in a drawer. Tomorrow he would put up new photos, photos of his team, photos of the people who made his success possible, photos that told the truth. That leadership was not about one man, it was about all of them, together. His phone rang. It was an internal line. "Captain Stone," he answered. "Captain, this is the Command Master Chief. The Admiral would like to see you in his office, immediately." Marcus felt his stomach drop. Admiral Whitmore must have filed a report. His career was over. This was it. "On my way," Marcus said. He stood, straightened his uniform, walked down the hallway to the Admiral's office. Each step felt like walking to an execution. He knocked on the door. "Enter." Marcus walked in, saluted. Behind the desk sat a different Admiral, not Whitmore. This was a 3-star, Vice Admiral Patterson, commander of Naval Special Warfare Command, the man who controlled every SEAL team in the Navy. Marcus felt his blood turn to ice. "Captain Stone," Admiral Patterson said. His voice was neutral, impossible to read. "Close the door. Have a seat." Marcus closed the door, sat in the chair across from the desk. His back was straight, his face was impassive. But inside, he was screaming. This was it. His career was done. 20 years, gone. Because of one stupid moment, Admiral Patterson opened a folder, read something, closed it, looked at Marcus. "I received an interesting call today," the Admiral said, "from Admiral Whitmore at the Naval Medical Center." Marcus said nothing. There was nothing to say. "He told me about your interaction," Patterson continued. "He told me what you said, what you did." Marcus braced himself. "And he told me," the Admiral said, his voice changing slightly, "that you are exactly the kind of officer we need more of in this command." Marcus blinked. "Sir?" "Admiral Whitmore called to commend you, Captain," Patterson said. "He said that you showed humility, that you listened, that you learned. He said that most officers, when caught making a mistake, double down. They make excuses, they blame others. But you did something rare. You admitted you were wrong, and you committed to change." Marcus could not speak. He had expected court-martial. He got a commendation. "Now," Admiral Patterson said, leaning back in his chair, "do not misunderstand me. What you did was unacceptable. Disrespecting a flag officer, even unknowingly, is a serious breach of protocol. Under normal circumstances, there would be consequences." "Here it comes," Marcus thought. "But Admiral Whitmore has specifically requested that no action be taken," Patterson continued. "He said that the lesson you learned today was worth more than any punishment I could give you, and he asked me to tell you something." The Admiral picked up a note. "Read it aloud." "Tell Captain Stone that the best leaders are not those who never fall. They are those who get back up, and when they do, they help others rise with them." Marcus felt his throat tighten. "So here is what is going to happen," Admiral Patterson said. "You are going to continue commanding your team. You are going to take what you learned today and use it. You are going to be an example, not of perfection, but of growth, of humility, of what it means to truly lead." "Yes, sir," Marcus said. "I will, sir." "Good. The Admiral stood, extended his hand. Dismissed, Captain. And Stone, one more thing. Yes, sir? I have been doing this for 30 years. I have commanded thousands of men, and I can tell you this. The officers who admit their mistakes, those are the ones who become admirals. The ones who never admit mistakes, they plateau. They never grow. Remember that. I will, sir. Thank you, sir. Marcus walked out of the office, down the hallway, out into the California sunshine. He stood there for a moment, breathing, feeling. He had entered this day as one person. He was leaving it as another, and he knew with absolute certainty that his life had just changed forever, all because of a quiet nurse in simple scrubs, a flag officer without a uniform, a teacher without a classroom. Admiral James Whitmore had given him the greatest gift a leader could receive, the gift of seeing clearly, not just the world, but himself. And Marcus Stone would never be the same again. 6 months passed. Marcus Stone was not the same man who had walked into that hospital. He had kept his promise. Every person on his team, he knew their story. The cook who sent money home to his sick mother, the mechanic who was studying for his engineering degree at night, the supply clerk who volunteered at a homeless shelter on weekends. He learned their names, their dreams, their struggles, and something changed in him. The arrogance melted away. The need to dominate disappeared. In its place grew something stronger, respect, real respect. His team noticed. They performed better, not because they feared him, but because they trusted him, wanted to follow him, not the rank, the man. One day, Marcus returned to the Naval Medical Center, not for an appointment, by choice. He walked to the intake desk. Admiral Whitmore sat there, same blue scrubs, same reading glasses. Sir, Marcus said quietly. Permission to speak? The Admiral looked up. A small smile appeared. Granted, Captain. I wanted to say thank you. For that day, for the lesson, it changed my life, changed how I lead, changed who I am. Admiral Whitmore stood, walked around the desk, placed a hand on Marcus's shoulder. I know it did, son. I have been hearing good things about you. Very good things. That is what happens when a good man realizes he can be better. The world changes around him. I owe you everything, sir. You owe me nothing. You did the work, you made the choice. That was all you. The Admiral paused. But if you really want to thank me, pay it forward. When you see someone making the same mistake you made, teach them, with kindness, with patience, the way I taught you. I will, sir, I promise. They shook hands, two warriors, different generations, different paths, but the same understanding. Leadership was not about power, it was about service, about lifting others, about seeing the invisible and making them matter. Marcus walked out of that hospital for the second time, but this time he was not running from shame. He was walking toward purpose, toward the kind of leader he was always meant to be, the kind who kneeled not in defeat, but in respect. For everyone. And that is where our story ends, with a lesson learned, a life changed, and a reminder that the strongest among us are often those who serve in silence. I hope this story gave you something to think about. If you enjoyed it, let me know in the comments where you are listening from. Hit that like button and subscribe so we can share more stories together. Thanks for spending this time with me. Until next time.